Welcome, everyone, to our first broadcast together. Devin and I are buddies, and we just love to present, and we love to present together. And this is our first time doing it. And this is recorded, and we will send you some information about our next presentation and also about this presentation so that you can watch it again and again and again if that will be helpful for you. So thank you for joining us today. We're here to inspire because we've been inspired. We've been inspired by many other people. I'll tell you one of my first times in my life when I was inspired. That is when I was a young kid, a young teenager, and I visited another church, and I noticed that they had a bunch of youth that were singing. And I went back to my leader at my church and said, "Hey, how come we don't have youth in our church that are singing?" And he said, "Because you haven't formed a choir yet." So I formed a choir. It was very interesting. I didn't realize I could form a choir. And because of my church leader's enthusiasm and invitation, I formed a choir. And for the next 4 years, we had a youth choir. I wasn't always the pianist or the director of it, but it was me who put it together and kept it going. And that was an awesome experience for me because that's when I started to understand I could have a vision and move forward in my life. And that's what we're here for. We are here to share our visions with you and to hopefully assist you in moving forward in life. So without further ado, I will turn the time over to my good buddy, Devin Bosch, and he will give a little presentation.
Hi, friends. Devin here. So I'm going to share two stories. The first story happened 20 years ago. It's a personal story of mine. I and my friends were on our way back from Oregon. We left Oregon. We live here in Utah, and we left Oregon at 9 p.m. and traveled through the night. It was a Sunday night, and we had to be to work the next morning, several of us. So that's why we traveled through the night. It was short-sighted, unfortunately. We should have just taken the time off, but we didn't. There were two adults. It was a Jeep Grand Cherokee. There were two adults in the very front seat, three children in the middle seat, and I was in the very back with all the luggage without a seatbelt. About 1 in the morning, I woke up to the front passenger screaming the driver's name. He had fallen asleep at the wheel, and we had slowly started to go off the road. We hit that rumble strip. He woke up, and he jerked the wheel, and we did this, back and forth across the freeway. And I remember as we were turning back to the left, the back rear tire popped, and we started to roll. It felt to me like we rolled about 15 times. The witness said that we rolled about 3, but it just felt like a lot. And the reason it felt like a lot is because I was tumbling in the back. I was tumbling with the luggage, and glass was being thrown at my face. My leg started hurting. I got a bad cut on my leg that needed stitches. And it felt like being inside of a dryer. It felt like being inside of a dryer. If you were stuffed inside of a dryer with a bunch of glass and debris, and then somebody was hitting the outside with a sledgehammer, that's what it felt like. During all of that chaos, there was only one thought that went through my mind. That thought was, oh great, how are we going to get home now? Now, I'm going to pause there and go to my second story. My second story happened not too long ago, probably within the last year. I was at home in my bed, asleep, and I woke up because of a scent. There was a smell, and I was so confused what that smell was. I was laying in my bed trying to smell it, see if I could tell what the smell was, and see if I could smell it again. I couldn't smell it. I laid there for a little while. My heart was actually pounding. I was nervous. I was concerned. I got out of bed and I walked through the whole condo, smelling down the hallway and in the kitchen and the living room. And then I opened the outside door to see if I could smell anything outside that may have come in. Couldn't smell a thing. There was nothing, no scent. So I laid back down in my bed and I sat there and I was pondering. I was like, what could have possibly smelled that way? What was that smell? It just didn't make any sense to me. And I went through where I was laying and tried to put everything back together, piece it back together, kind of Sherlock it. And I realized that my face was right against my pillow. My pillow was right up against me like that. It was my own breath that I smelled. So, in the first experience, there was actual chaos, real terror. There was an event going on that caused concern and harm, and um, are we going to be killed, or all of those things could have been going on in my mind, but the only thought was, oh great, how are we going to get home now? The second event, where there was no physical harm, no danger, my heart was beating fast and I was concerned. I woke up and walked throughout the condo, and it kept me awake for a while. It's fascinating to me that in that chaos, I can have that feeling of peace and know that everything's going to be okay. And that the second experience, I created the chaos. I invited the chaos because of my mind and allowing it to go run with itself. That was really powerful to me. I want to share a picture of the car accident. So this is what it looks like. This is Sid in the background there. And so you can tell it was really traumatic. It was awful. It was more intense than anything I had ever been through. But we survived. We all walked away from it. We had stitches here and there, but we walked away from it. But the point of my message is that even in difficulty, even in trial and problems that we go through, we can have peace, and we can choose that regardless of what we go through. We can choose that for past experiences, and then there are experiences that we go through that we can create the chaos. My invitation is to create that peace, to look at what you go through new eyes and through eyes of gratitude, to be grateful for those things that we've experienced. They give us knowledge and power and ability to share messages about the things we've experienced. There is purpose for everything that we go through. Even through all the tumult and difficulties of life, what we're experiencing in the world today, we can have peace. We can know that there is good in this world, and we can acknowledge that. One of the ways that we acknowledge that is by managing our communication device, managing what we say and what we think. I can think of that experience in that car accident as one of the most horrible experiences of my life. I can be angry at the driver for falling asleep at the wheel with the 80 mile an hour cruise control set. I can be upset that we decided to leave when we did and blame others. It was her fault for wanting to be at work the next day, or things like that. I can say things that way, or I can manage my communication device and say, you know what, I'm grateful for what I experienced. I know there's purpose to it because look what it's taught me. And it's taught me, I think about that all the time. And it's wonderful. The second thing I want to invite, I'm going to share a second little picture here. Just one moment while I pull that up. You may recognize this little guy. Just a second. This is a robot from Star Wars. His name is BB-8. So, in my ways of communication, managing my communication device, I'm inviting us to think of something to be better each day, and to do that by 8 o'clock or 8 a.m. or both. So be better by 8, BB-8, better by 8. Choose something to be different. If there's something that I'm looking at negatively, if I have a bad relationship or I've had an argument with somebody, if I'm thinking poorly about my job or with my income, where I'm living, even the country or president, we can choose to be better by 8 o'clock or 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. every single day. I've got an alarm on my phone that rings every night at 7:45 that reminds me to go through my day and think about what I could better. And every single day for the past couple of months, I've done this. Thought about something that I could choose to look at differently, to look at with gratitude or with peace. And I invite you to do the same. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to turn you over to Sid.
Thank you, Devin. That was great. So I am here to also inspire you and to share some of the inspiration that I've had in my life. And I really love what Devin just shared about being better by 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. We all are at somewhere wherever we are, and we can all get better. So I invite you all to take your hand and put it somewhere to represent where you are, and then put it higher to represent where you want to be. And I love that. So by 8 o'clock every day, I can be a little bit better. I can be higher toward my goal. And I've recently sort of incorporated something like that into my life. By 8 o'clock every morning, I've usually walked between 3 and 4 miles. And sometimes I do walking and exercises. And so I can say that I've gone from wherever I am to somewhere else. And this is a very important principle to constantly be self-improving. I'll just give you a short illustration. I had a friend who came to me. He was working in sales, and he said, "Sid, what can I do to improve my sales?" And I said, "Well, how many sales are you getting right now?" And he said, "Well, I'm getting so many last month." And I said, "Okay, what about the month before that?" And he told me. And I said, "So how many sales would you like to have in a month?" And he said, "Well, like if I could add those 2 months together, that would be great." And that number turned out to be 40. So here's what I invited him to do. I invited him to write 40 down on a piece of paper, and I hope this 40 is coming across in the right direction. In my screen, it doesn't, it's backwards, but this is a 40. I invited him to put this in front of him so that he could see it every time he was on the phone making a sale. And that way, he would keep in his brain his goal, his vision of where he wanted to be, from wherever he was to somewhere else, to the higher. And so it was sort of cool. About 6 months later, I didn't see him for quite a while. About 6 months later, I said, "Hey, whatever happened to your sales? What happened there?" And he said, "Sid, you'll never guess what. I put that 40 right in front of me, just like you suggested. And within a couple of weeks, I had already reached the 40, and he had not gone down since then." And I thought, that is awesome. So the principle here is, if you have a vision of where you want to be, create that vision in some kind of visual form, put it in front of you so you see it several times a day. And when you do that, then it will be in your brain, and your brain will help you think about it, and your brain will help you do stuff to get to where you want to be. So it starts off with your vision and your thoughts, and then it turns into your actions, and then you get your results. So if you remember in the picture that Devin showed you of the car after the accident, I was behind the car. There's a reason I was behind the car. I used to weigh 135 pounds more than I do now. And at that time, I was pretty big. So I was hiding behind a lot of stuff. I didn't like seeing my body image in pictures especially. But one time I decided I'm going to be smaller. So I had a vision of myself. So I got a picture of myself as an adult, and I looked at that picture every day. And I looked at it in my mind's eye. I looked at it literally, and I thought, hey, I am going to become smaller again. And I rearranged what I ate. I didn't really go on a diet. I just rearranged what I ate, more fruits and vegetables and meat and less white stuff and carbs. And I lost about 2 pounds a week until I'm 135 pounds smaller than I used to be. Isn't that awesome? So I had a vision of where I wanted to be. And I had that vision in front of me, so it affected my thoughts. And then my thoughts affected my actions, and my actions created my results. So that's where it goes. It goes thoughts, actions, results. That's how we are. That's how everything works. I just love that opportunity. Every day I say affirmations to myself, and I don't know if you say affirmations, but I would highly recommend it. One of my main affirmations that I say to myself and to others every day is, I am here to lovingly and passionately inspire all to manifest their magnificence, to embrace and manifest their magnificence. And I say that to other people all the time. And sometimes when I'm bored and I'm just waiting in line or whatever, I write that down so I can remind myself, I have a purpose in this life. I love that. Well, one day I heard one of my gurus in life say, hey, you should say your affirmations to yourself in the mirror. So I looked in the mirror and I said my affirmation to myself, and I had a very powerful experience. I realized that I'm also here to inspire myself to embrace and manifest my own divinity, my own magnificence. Wow. So it's not just others that I'm here to bless. It's me. I'm here to improve, to get better by 8, twice a day. That's just an awesome experience. I'm glad Devin shared that with us. Um, Wherever we are now, however we got there is our story in life. And that gives us a sort of point of view to how we are. And wherever we are now, we can go wherever we want to be. We just need to have a vision and work on that vision. Our thoughts turn into actions, turn into results. So that's just a great thing. That's just a great principle to remember. And as Devin shared with us, sometimes the things that happen to us, no matter what led us to the things that happened, we can interpret however we want. If it's a car rollover, we can be calm about it, like Devin turned out to be. Or if it's a breath situation, we can be panicky about it, like Devin turned out to be. I'm glad he didn't show us a picture of his breath, by the way. So we can, our vision creates what we want and gives us the results we want. The next principle is that how we see other people and treat them is how they become. And I have an example of this in my life. I have a daughter who, every time I walked by her room, I just shook my head. Oh my gosh, your room is so messy. You're just such a messy person. And I would say that to her almost, you need to clean up your room. Can you do any better? And you know what? After a few weeks, it got worse. And I was just frustrated. And then one of my gurus in life suggested, hey, why don't you treat people like you want them to be and how you see them in their best self? And I thought, okay, whatever, I'll try it. So when I passed by my daughter's room, I said, oh my gosh, your room looks better. It looks like you've been cleaning it up. I don't know if she'd really been cleaning it up at all, but it looked like it a little bit to me maybe. And you know what? After a few weeks, I noticed her room really was getting cleaner and cleaner because I was treating her as someone who is a cleaner, neater person, and she was cleaning up her room. At least that was one of the influences in her life. So that's when I realized there are two ways of influencing. We can influence passively or we can influence on purpose. And passively, that's the example I have for that is if you ever just think about anybody and you talk about someone, you think about certain descriptors of what that person is like. But there are other people who really make a point of coming across a certain way. One of those people that I've met in my life is a guy named Hugh Nibley. He's passed away now, but I got to know him a little bit. He was my teacher. His daughter's one of my friends. And he was just a very interesting man. And he was sort of funny and witty, and he was also sort of strange, and he was brilliant. And as I got to know him, I realized he wanted to come across funny and witty and brilliant and a little bit strange. All three of those things, that was part of his persona. That's how he, on purpose, presented himself. And I love that. I love that what people said about him was the result of what he purposefully put out there. And I hope that that's true of me. I want to have a purposeful influence on other people. I want to be known as someone who inspires. I want to be known as someone who uplifts. And that's what I want to do with my life. And here's a little secret. Just like the affirmations, you can say to yourself in the mirror and realize that they're for you too. Your influence can be for you too. How I treat myself is how I become. If I treat myself as a loser, I'll be a loser. If I treat myself as a winner, I'll be a winner. And maybe if I treat myself as someone who's going to work at 7-Eleven for my whole life long, then I'll just be a 7-Eleven worker for my whole life. But if I increase my vision a little bit, I could be a truck driver. I think that's better than being a 7-Eleven guy. Wow. But what if I want to be a king and live in that castle like the one behind me? Whoa. Then maybe my brain will start percolating my thoughts in there, and I can do more and more and more until I get there. Not literally a king, of course, but I just mean something fantastic. I think sometimes our vision is very small, but we can expand it, and we can really expand it. And the sky's the limit. It's just an awesome thing. So this all boils down to, however our vision is, will guide us in our lives. And I want to be someone who purposefully inspires myself and others to go from wherever they are to where they want to be. And as Devin mentioned, we can do something to improve ourselves every day, twice a day, by 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock in the afternoon. Can you imagine a world where everybody is improving and increasing? What a wonderful thing. To close, I would like to say that my next presentation is going to be more directly about how to create that vision and how to create what I call a vision board. You've probably heard of a vision board. I remember when I first heard of it, I thought it was something girls did, that they learned in girl classes or something like that. But I've since been mentored by people that I trust very much, and I've learned the power of having my goals in front of me, just like I invited my friend to have his goal in front of him. And I've learned the power of how that assists us in achieving our dreams. And I'd love to share that with you. Devin and I are going to give our next presentation on Tuesday, the 7th of November at 7 o'clock, and it'll be in the same format. We love to give these video presentations. Devin, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
I think that's all. We're going to be having additional presentations as time goes on. So watch for those. We'll be posting that invite just like we have invited here. And lastly, I did brush my teeth.
And also lastly, we did record this, so you'll be able to watch this again and again and again, as many times as you need to be inspired, and share it with your friends. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.